What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Currency Club. My name is Whitney, and I'm here with yet another special guest. So today's special guest is actually from my Houston network. I met this man maybe a year ago and was impressed, was laughing, right? Lots of good energy. And I was like, this is just a person I have to know. So today's special guest is Charles McDade, agency owner at McDade Insurance. What's up, Charles?
Hey, how you doing, Whitney? So
Life is
no, I'm
good.
so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here. But I'm, like you said, the owner of McDade Insurance. So I've been in the industry for about 14, 15 years. Started at Liberty Mutual, but I started opening up my agency in 2020, and have been a agency owner ever since then. And it's been a fun roller coaster ride because I'm a marketing person that accidentally sells insurance. So we try to make magic happen accordingly. So no, it's been fun. I just thank you for inviting me out.
Black and brown people are historically underrepresented in the insurance industry. So whether you work for someone or not, but he owns an entire agency. So talk to me about how you got started in insurance. I know you briefly just mentioned Liberty Mutual, but what else?
Okay, well, to start from the beginning, I wanted to end up being a lawyer at first because I thought it was going to be a good amount of fun. But I actually ended up taking a marketing professional sales class at Nicholls State, Louisiana. So while I was over there, I did a bunch of stuff, running, moving, and shaking. I ended up getting into the national sales competition in Kennesaw, Georgia. And afterwards, came back home to Houston and started wanting to sell and help out like my family business. So my grandpa actually owned a business that took care of NASA cloud work and a bunch of other cybersecurity stuff. Well, long story short, me and him butted heads a little bit, and I decided to show him what he missed out on by running and gunning with a couple of friends of mine at Liberty Mutual. And while there, won a couple awards for top producer countrywide, won a couple of awards for just different top 5% conversations, and decided that it was a lot more fun than I gave it credit. You're helping a lot of people, doing a lot of things for a lot of folks, and making sure that financial literacy doesn't just stop at your bank account. Like there's a lot more to it. It has to be investments. It has to be insurance because there's a lot of things that affect people and how they live their lives. And insurance being one of those that got me really, really excited, really, really fast, just because of how much I could connect with how many people and affect their lives in like a positive fashion.
Help us understand some of these terms, right? You said you were a top
Mhm.
producer. For people who are not in insurance, what does it mean to be a producer?
So a producer is an individual that is licensed to sell insurance, and they find clients. So they market themselves, whether in the community or online or by Instagram, Facebook, the TikTokies, all that good stuff to try to find a way and to get their word out there. Producers are exactly that. They write insurance, they advise people on their insurance, and they are the ones going out in the community and actually making those connections actually.
Okay, so now you're an agency owner. Talk to me
Right.
about those additional responsibilities as an agency owner.
The additional responsibilities as an agency owner is everything else. It's kind of like the question of what is it like cooking lunch and was it like cooking Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like it's an added level of responsibility. So I have to do, of course, hiring. I have to talk to different carriers out there and kind of have those relationships with them. So what I mean by carriers is like, okay, so Geico, Progressive, Travelers, all those companies, I have to be able to have those conversations on where my business is coming from, what's happening inside of my agency, and what type of relationship that I want to have with them. And all of that extra financial knowledge, all of that extra relationship based knowledge, all of that comes to a head where if at the end of the day, if you're not selling and you're not bringing in clients, you don't really have much of an agency. It's like being a really good chef and not having enough people to come into your restaurant. It's something that you don't want to see. You want to make sure, as long as you're good at the everyday producing, talking with clients, doing this, all that stuff's fantastic. But if you can't make that consistent and repeatable, that's where owning an agency comes involved.
So, what makes a person a good producer? When I hear the word producer, I think about sales. Like you're a salesperson, right? You're trying to generate some new business. What makes a person a good producer?
Let's start with this. Insurance is making sure that a promise is delivered, right? You are having a conversation with someone about what if and what could happen. And if you're in a position where you are a person that's trying to just sell a policy in the dirty word way of sales, right? It's like, oh, I'm trying to get your money. I'm trying to grab this. I'm trying to make myself some commission. That makes for a terrible producer. At the end of the day, if you're not someone that's focused on the receivable, like making sure that the policy that you wrote, the things that you did to write that policy are all correct, you won't be in the industry for long. So there's a huge reason why a lot of people in the first 2 years, first 2, 3 years, 90% of the people that get their license actually give it up. They kind of quit the industry. And a lot of the reason for that is if you come in and you burn a bunch of bridges, whether you realize it or not, it'll always come back and bite you, because in insurance, your word, your promise, your deliverable, which is your ability to write the right policy, do the right thing by the customer, all of that stuff is behind your word, your name, your legacy, and that's helpful whenever your name's on the building too.
Definitely. So, talk to me about the process of getting a license to sell insurance. How long is it? How much does it cost? Once you're licensed to sell insurance, can you sell any type of insurance or is it like specialized? Talk to me about that.
Got you. So, best way to describe that is it's state by state specific. So, in Texas, you're able to get your property and casualty license, right? That might allow you to sell just your home, your auto insurance, right? And then you have to make sure that you take the other 10, 15 questions required to be able to sell the commercial side of that conversation. So it's really based on what is it you're trying to do, where is it that you're trying to serve. So for example, I'll give you, for me, I'm licensed in P&C and commercial. I'm licensed in life and health and annuities, so that all of that is encompassed within my license. And for me to get it, it takes, if you're taking all of those tests at the same time, which is like about 130 questions for property and casualty and the commercial side of it, right? Being able to sell business insurance, your commercial auto policies, all that good stuff. It's if you're really pushing it, maybe 3 weeks to a month of dedicated studying just to get your license. And then same conversation on the life, health, and annuities, about 3 weeks to a month in Texas to be able to get everything geared up. But like everything else, just because you can, turn on a stove, it doesn't make you a chef. Just because you can start the process, that doesn't mean that you know everything and everywhere to serve clients successfully. So licensing is the first step, and then that's where your journey kind of kicks off and starts, if you will.
Okay, so once you get your license, what type of job can you do? If a person's like, oh, I don't want to start my own business, I don't want to run my own business. Once I have this license in hand, what can I do for work?
Okay, so once you get licensed in property and casualty, as the first example, you can actually help clients understand insurance. Like you can communicate with clients. So in being licensed, it means being able to communicate to the public about whether or not they're what's covered, what's not covered, answering questions about what affects people's pricing, being able to do quotes actually. So a lot of people kick up where I did. I started off as an intern with Liberty Mutual, where I did a little bit of this, a little bit of I did a little bit of calling clients, a little bit of the selling part, a little bit of servicing, which means if someone needed an auto insurance change, they bought a new car, updating that stuff for them. That's mostly your entry level conversation. So most would probably start off either working at a state farm or working as an intern for a company, and starting off having those simplified conversations with clients. That's where you would start. Now in life insurance, a lot of people make the decision to go 1099, so they become a contractor for life insurance, and there's so much you get thrown in the fire with becoming a contractor. from how you pay your taxes to who's responsible when you make a mistake, right? Did you decide to get insurance to cover yourself as a contractor? Like what all happened to get there? If it was me giving any type of advice, mentorship is everything. Find yourself either a coach, which is someone that is able to be with you day to day, helping you with making sure you're doing the right thing, the right place, the right time. And then a mentor is someone that is a couple miles down the road from you, but can give you advice on how to best traverse the path as much possible.
How many mentors do you have in this space?
As many mentors as there can be problems. like that's the craziest part about it. I've been blessed to find people in the most opportune and or inopportune times, and the more people you talk to, the more you realize that we all go through very similar like problems and issues. No matter what business you're in, hiring is going to be a difficult process. So you might have someone that is just really good at hiring, right? Or you might have someone that is really good with their financials. You might have someone that is a bit more than a CPA, but someone that's able to talk to you about the numbers of your business and be able to walk through it. A lot of people like to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And if they don't like everything about their mentor, they're like, all right, cool, done with them. I'm finished. All right, I don't want to talk to that person. Don't want to talk to her anymore. I didn't like how she said this. It's like, well, hold on. A mentor is someone that you look up to in a facet of the industry. It doesn't have to be, I want to recreate myself in the image of, because I heard that's only God's job. Like God's the only one that's allowed to create someone in their image, right? That's not our job. So what is it that you're really trying to get out of this conversation? Are you trying to be everything this person is, or are you finding those bits and pieces that you see value in? A lot of people have trouble when someone isn't exactly a reflection of them. They can't see value in it. They have a problem when they look at someone, they talk to someone, and they're kind of glancing into a mirror. And if they don't see a little bit of themselves in you, they have a hard time wanting to connect with you further, right? So values in the eye of the beholder, and mentorship is in the eye of the beholder. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Focus on those facets of that relationship that drive for excellence. And I've had, man, I give credit to every single thing I can imagine, from my grandfather to Chris Paradiso to Mick Hunt to Kerry Wallace to Ron Wadley to David Carruthers to, I mean, I can go like on, Taylor Dobby. It's this, there's so many people that I've taken pieces of that I've loved and adored, and I've tried to implement in my life to be better.
Hmm. So, talk to me a little bit more about your actual agency. You talked about hiring earlier. So, like, how many people are part of your agency?
We have four people in the agency now. So we have one virtual assistant, one person that's 1099, and then we have a sales manager and a customer service individual. So we try to keep it as tight as possible. Like I said, I'm more of I'm tech first. I have the beautiful situation of being built during the COVID era. So I was able to try different technology, build myself digitally, and scale my agency that way instead of the original way, which was shake hands, kiss babies, and because that wasn't allowed in 2020. We had to, they were like, no more. That was a part of the business plan. Ixnay that, right? Like, let's not worry about it. So now it's a lot more. The foundation has been built where it's online, and I've been able to grow that relationship. Now we focus mainly on property and casualty, like that's your auto insurance, your home insurance, your commercial auto and physical property, right? We do sell life insurance as well, but we don't sell your larger group like health insurance plans. Like we're not that type of agency. So when you're looking for home insurance, auto insurance, we're able to kind of ring a benefit to the people that we see every day. So mom, dad that owns a house that it's a bit older, they don't quite know what kind of coverage they're supposed to have or what they're supposed to do, or grandma and grandpa that are kind of getting into the age of fixed income where they have to make sure that what they're getting is actually worth it for them. And that's how our agency has been built from top to bottom.
So you touched on marketing a minute ago, like within the COVID era, but then also before you had talked about this passion around marketing. What is the number one tip that you can offer someone with marketing their business?
It's easier to be yourself. Just it's so much easier just to be you and to be authentic because it requires too much energy to be something else. If you're taking the extra time and extra step to roll out the representative, the person that you believe that you're supposed to be, well, that's a first date, and they always go badly because you didn't get denied for who you were. You got denied for who you thought you needed to pretend to be. In marketing, it's all about authenticity. Like whether you're loved or you're hated, just make sure it's for exactly what you are and not this person that you made up. In marketing, it's so much easier to be that than to get lost in, well, I think they would like me to be a little, act a little Dion here and then sprinkle in a little bit of The Rock here. And then you're trying to make this Frankenstein creation that is so much work and effort to try to push out into the world. If you're you're going to find folks that love and resonate with it, and you'll also find people that absolutely hate you for it. But as long as you're there, that strikes a chord, and that's the biggest part, getting an emotional reaction out of someone. And it's so much easier to do that truthfully when you're authentic.
Love that. Do you feel that that's what separates you from other agencies? Or is there something
Yeah.
else? Like what sets you apart from other agencies?
The thing that sets me apart is I care to a fault. My agency is our tagline is insurance driven to serve, because it's we've lost that along the way when it comes to sales. Like sales is a part of a word that's Latin for to serve. Like that's what it was supposed to be there for, versus this weird just transaction of money and people feeling like they're getting less than what it's worth. Right? Being able to be there for someone matters so much more than I can ever say. Biggest story that really punched me hard early was I do sell life insurance. I was selling it. I was selling it at Liberty, and I had a client that just wanted to buy a policy for a couple of their kids. All right, great. They got one on their 20-year-old. They got one on their 26-year-old. They got one on their 17-year-old. They got one on their 15-year-old. Just $100,000 each, just because like, oh, it'll just be something to hand off to them. Little stocking stuffer, it's not a problem. I had the unfortunate responsibility when I got news that the 17-year-old passed away because of a robbery attempt gone wrong. And the moment that you realize that what you're doing is impactful for not just the individual that you wrote the policy on, but also the ripple effect of how it affects their family. This father was going through a really rough time during the kind of oil slowdown era of like the mid 2010s, let's call it like 2015 or so. And he put everything he could on a credit card, thinking that, hey, I have to just bury my son. Like I have to do everything I possibly can to take care of him. And the fact that I was able to kind of knock on his door and hand him a check that in no way replaces the child that was lost, but it does give that man the space to grieve, because it's so hard when you're trying to just make yourself do what what you need to do as a man for your family, provide for them, give to them, help with them, and you put your emotions and your needs on the back burner. The fact that I was able to give him some space that would allow him to take the time needed to really grieve his son, to not worry about if the home was going to be foreclosed or if any of that was going to happen. That particular event made me look at what I did in insurance dramatically different. It made me realize every conversation I have is a promise, and sooner or later, whether or not I intend it or not, that promise is going to have to come due. And I understood that the only way that I could sleep at night is by making sure that I'm doing for each client what I would do for my family in a similar situation, and kind of teaching and tailoring that conversation around their wants and needs. And that's a pretty high bar, but that is the only thing that separates me and anybody else in the industry.
Wow, you said so much. I'm feeling the care, the concern, the passion behind the work you do, the impact based on that, very thoughtful story that you share with us. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Oh, I'm so impressed. I'm thinking so many things. Every conversation is a promise. Wow, I've never thought about it that way. So yeah, I'm learning a lot as we are having this conversation, and thank you for that. I want to shift a little bit to talk about money because you mentioned kind of the commissions that people get when they're in a producer role. You mentioned, how money had this great impact and how you wanted to help that family and that father, be a little bit at peace or ease some of the grief and the stress that was happening as they were trying to plan for arrangements for their son. So, and then also, of course, just the name of a currency club. We're here to talk about money. So I'm thinking
Absolutely.
back to the cost, right? So cost of starting up an agency. I know that there's a fee associated with getting that license, but then what other type of fees did you incur when planning or launching your business?
There's a cost in everything. And one of my favorite lines is you either pay for the education early or you pay in fixing your inexperience later. And that is such a huge conversation because anyone, once you're licensed, look, you take your 3 week test and you have a bunch of money you want to burn. Congratulations, you're an agency owner. Like it's done. It's fantastic, right? There's a bunch of different styles to do it, and in owning a business, it's like watching people like swim across a river, right? You see them, but you don't realize how deep the water is underneath them. And that's the same thing when it comes to owning a business or when it comes to owning an agency. Whether you decide to go, this is one of three routes, the captive side, which is like your all states, your state farms, your farmers, right? All of those, just like your franchisees out there that do McDonald's and all that good stuff. There's, let's call it, anywhere between like 50 to like $120,000 that you would have to buy in to the brand, because what you're receiving in that is not only are they going to train you, but they're also going to give you license of the trust that comes behind a Geico logo, a Allstate logo, a Liberty Mutual logo, right? That's an option, and that's the ownership side of captive. Now there is also the W-2, the employee side of captive world, where you can get paid to be a producer for Liberty Mutual, for me as an example, and they'll pay you your base salary and some commission, but you do not own your clientele, your book, your the people that you sold, the captive agency, the brand that you signed up with. They own those relationships, right? And so that's the first version. That's your captive convo. Then there is network, right? Your the Woodland Financial Groups, the Goose Heads, right? You own your book per se. They have first dibs on if you sell it. They can buy it from you first before you try to sell in the open market. But you do have to pay again because it's their brand anywhere between 50 and 150 just to start to accrue debt in other places. So you got to pay a fee at the door before you start buying bottles off the bar. Same conversation for when you're trying to own an agency. Very, very similar, right? Then there's the third route, which is, of course, going full independent, your own brand, your own relationships, right? And the expense there is the experience, right? You do have to pay money to start things up. You do have to get your own office, your own setup. You do have to get your own branding that you either build yourself or pay someone to build. But you get a blank sheet of paper and you create your own relationships with Geico yourself, with Geico, Travelers, Safeco, State Auto, all these other Berkshire Hathaway. You create all those relationships by having a conversation with a marketing rep, like a vendor rep, if you will, and you negotiate with them one on one on what exactly they expect from you, what you're trying to do, how much you're agreeing on selling. But because there is no kind of best practices in the third option, you're left to jump in that river without any idea of what's in it, how deep it is, how difficult it is. You're really left on your own devices, and because of that, a lot of people fail very quickly. Versus having some hand holding is helpful, especially early on. And because there's such a small barrier of entry, a lot of agencies get over their head, and because there's so much money that takes to start it and so much more that's needed to keep it running. And it's that old phrase, if it was easy everyone would do it, is more true in that than anything else.
So thinking about money still, let's talk about the other side. How much can people make by being an employee in this insurance industry? We talked about producers earlier,
Mhm.
and I heard they get a small base salary, but the majority of
Mhm.
their income is based on commissions. So based on your experience being a producer, like what's the range? What can people expect to make?
When you said range, it just got me all just juiced up inside because it's anywhere from poor to doing well, right? And that's the hardest part is that when you hear that someone is a doctor, you're like, oh, I have a general idea of how much money a doctor can make. Like they'll be okay, right? But when it comes to insurance, it can be so dramatically different because I got in again in my 20s as I went directly from playing football at Nicholls State, like I had a scholarship, all that good stuff, to jumping into sales and kind of running and gunning in that particular light. But my base salary was a year in as an employee was $20,000, and then it was reduced to 14. So for me, it literally paid none of my taxes. Like it was very, very small. But I bet on myself, and I was making give or take 10% of all of anything I was selling. I would get 10% of, and then I would also get bonuses associated to that. So if you're someone that is selling a ridiculous amount of insurance. Like I was, it was well over 200,000, and there was also a lot of grown men that were not making as much money as I was because I could afford to just sleep underneath my desk and just like not leave. Like I was working 12, 13 hours, like weekends. I just didn't care because every sale was a step closer to where we needed to be. And that's on the personal line side. So it's always that how much risk do you want to take on, and how much do you want to be guaranteed. The more you're willing to take on the risk, the more of the high end reward you're able to get. So you can, let's just say on average, if you are an employee for, let's say, State Farm, Allstate, something like that, you're just a inside sales producer, you're probably going to be making 1,500 to 2 grand a month, plus anywhere between 5 to 8% of every policy that you sell, give or take. And that's if you're the one that's finding the business. Now, if you decided, instead of doing personal lines, instead of selling home and auto, that you get into commercial, well, if you're willing to take the pill and not make that much money up front, something along the lines of 45,000 or so, and you really push into mid markets, like, you're over, let's call it 50 to 250 range of employees, like you're selling insurance to that size of a company, you can be making 3 to 5% of 15 to 20,000 in revenue on the lower end, of things. If you do an entire package, you're making realtor money off of every sale, but you're able to sell a lot more things because you're not having to show every house, right? And some of those people are making 500 to 800,000 if they're really the best in the world at what they do. So when I say that giggle of range that you came up with, you're like, hey, the range is really poor to you're doing damn good. It's just about knowing where your skill set is and where you best fit, and understanding where a mentor could be along that path for you. One of the best quotes that I've heard is, the greatest gift a person can give to another is the sight of achievement. And that's so powerful because the first person to run that 4 minute mile, and then there was just hundreds of people that were breaking. They thought it was nearly impossible to do. Now you have some kids that are seniors that are consistently crushing that 4 minute mile conversation. And that's a wild one to think about, but it's the same thing in insurance. Once you see what's possible, once you see how to affect change, either at the home and auto level or the commercial side of the conversation, you can really make a good living. But the key is being consistent and understanding your conversation is that promise. I hope that answers it. I didn't want to go too far, but I feel like I might have.
No, it's good. I am just making so many notes. Like, oh my gosh, that would be a great quote. I'm gonna have to share that. Like, the information is very informative. It's good for me. Audience, y'all let us know in the comments if you're finding value in this. I do want to ask you another question about money
Yeah.
before we transition on. And this is actually a little game so that we can learn more about you as a person. What is the craziest thing you've ever done for money?
When it comes to money, right? It all pales in comparison to the things that I've done for promises made, especially to people that I care about. One of my favorite stories that I had was, my wife was I was a big hunter, so I used to go out and go deer hunting, go pheasant hunting, go duck hunting, all that good stuff. My wife was pregnant with our oldest, my daughter Aaliyah, and I promised her, hey, don't worry, I'm going to go hunting, and then I'll make sure to come back for your birthday. It's not going to be a big deal. She's like, well, the baby's supposed to be due in January, and then like now you're out during deer season, like this, what something could happen. And I'm like, no, don't worry, like I'll make sure to make it back for your birthday, like it won't be a problem. So it started raining really heavy, and I was over in Uvalde, which is basically just desert. Okay. And my buddy looks at me and he says, Charles, man, I don't think you're going to make it today. We can't get enough traction. I was like, no, I don't think you understand. I promised her a pregnant woman that I would make it home on time, and I'm going to do that. He's like, okay, well then, like, just help me. Let's try to pull the truck out. Maybe use a four-wheeler. Let's try to get all this stuff done. And the four-wheeler was slipping and everything like that in the mud as well. So he's like, look, man, we just not getting enough weight in the back of the truck to get enough traction. And me being an old offensive lineman, so I'm, 315, 320. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Just throw the rope, attach it to the axle on the front, and throw the rope over the top of the cab. I will just jump on the back of the truck while we drive 2 miles out and make sure that we have enough traction. Just don't let it go underneath 35 miles an hour. He's like, you can't be serious about that. Like that's. I was like, no, I promised someone that I was going to make it back. So I Pecos Bill, like, rode the Tornado, which is like the a Texas tall tale, if you will. I was on the back of this pickup truck, jumping in the back of the cab while he is hauling it out of like the muddiest desert area ever. And I get about a mile and a half, and we can kind of see the gate. And so we know that we're about to hit the road. So he makes a left turn, and I fly off the side of the truck. To me, I knew I was fine. I grabbed over the top of the cab and pulled my little hunky ass up to try to make sure everything was okay. And we made it towards the gate. He jumps out, and he has tears. He's like, Chuck, I thought I killed you. Like, I thought it's like, I'm like, look, it's better that you killed me than my wife, because I'm not going to let her down. So that is the craziest thing I've done for a promise that I needed to make sure I pushed through.
Wow, that sounds like something out of a movie. I'm over here thinking the commitment, the dedication to show up for his family, his pregnant wife, the innovation, the fearlessness, the so many things. Wonderful story, once again. Thank you for that. Next, I want to shift and talk a little bit about challenges, because you were in a challenging situation. So, for a person in your industry, what are some of the challenges that you incur? Things that people may not see, that behind the scenes stuff that you have to deal with?
The hardest thing when it comes to insurance is that anyone can do it, and a lot of people try, and most leave. And what that means is that there's a bunch of visitors to the space. So there's a lot of people that feel that insurance is a scam because the person that sold them the policy did not know what it was that they were doing or what it was they were promising. So the best way that I can describe it is most people are told, go around, get your list of 50 together, right? The 50 people that you're sell a policy to, get it together. And then they go out there, and they go to church, or they go to their parents' house, and they like, hey, mom, if I get into insurance, would you get a quote for me? Would you get a policy for me? Oh, baby, absolutely, not a problem. Okay. Now, just like it is really easy to just blow someone off by telling them yes or no and just trying to get them out the way. A lot of people will tell you, absolutely, as soon as you get set up, I'll buy a policy, I'll do this, I'll do that. The truth of the matter is that if I express that I've been watching how to cut hair on YouTube for the last month, you're probably not going to be too enthused about me trying out my new skills on your hair, even though that grows back. But your house, when it's burned, it doesn't regrow the same way, right? The barrier of entry, what happens if you do a bad job, is so dramatically high that people assume that just getting a quote is just, it's money, it's just a little bit less here, it's a little bit less there. But in actuality, insurance is a kind of a casino, if you will. If something in their casino is costing them more money than others, they're going to start raising the price of entry to the blackjack table, right? If everyone's winning money on the blackjack table, they're going to start making changes to how much money it costs to go over there to the blackjack table. Well, same thing goes on for insurance. If there's a storm in the Gulf and everyone has to end up claiming for their roof, well then, hey, if they lost too much money there, they're going to start changing the contract of things. And being that you sold someone a policy, it is your job to stay abreast of what exactly the insurance company, aka the casino, is changing about where their rules and regulations sit. And a lot of people don't take it seriously. And I mean that from a client perspective and as a producer or a salesperson perspective. You have a responsibility, and that responsibility runs deep. It will take you 2 to 3 years before you're able to really affect a positive change, because people don't trust you just yet. And those that did jump on the wagon first and trust you, you need to make sure that those people are okay and that those people are taken care of, because reputation is everything in the industry, and you must guard it with your life.
Wow. We heard a lot of things there. The importance of your reputation, the importance of building trust. It sounds like this is a long game. So don't just get in thinking you're about to get rich quick in 6 months to a year and you're going to get all this money early on. So we heard a lot, but what advice would you give to a person?
Be patient, right? Like everything worth doing and worth having requires time, effort, and commitment. If you are not willing to give time, effort, and commitment to your career, then don't get in it. If you're not willing to give time, effort, and commitment into your relationships, don't get in it. If you're not able to give time, effort, and commitment to your children, don't get in it. So it's one of those situations where if you're deciding to go down a path, allow for the path to open itself up and give it time. In life or anything else, it's years, not days, not weeks, not months. Give it time.
Time, effort, and commitment. All right. What is your favorite Black owned business?
It's the funniest thing about businesses. They're always tied to people. And one of my favorite owners is Mick Hunt. He has destroyed my entire mind with a couple of words. I was asking him a question, and he does so many things. He does podcasts. He has the, of course, the Mick Factor. He does public speaking. He has a Premier Strategy Box. I mean, the list can kind of go on. All of these Black-owned companies, if you will, are fantastic because he gives a bit of himself in it. And one of the lines that he gave me was, I was asking him, was like, hey, whenever it comes to, the buying in and out of agencies or trying to do this, like, what's the best way that you've done it? And he looks at me and he says, I'm sorry, Charles, I'm not for sale. It was that mic drop moment of when you are a business owner and you have a vision and there are things that you're trying to do. Remember that what you're selling is you, your heart, your soul, your effort, your values, right? And making sure that the people that are aligned with that are actually aligned with it is so huge. And yet he didn't have to say the rest of it. Context, clues put into the rest. But the fact that he's able to just look me dead in the eye and say, I'm sorry, Charles, I'm not for sale, is why he's my favorite Black-owned business.
Charles, I feel like I need you to write a book. Do you have a book? Are you an author? I feel like that needs to be on your agenda, because talking to you is just so inspiring. You're pulling all these good quotes, wonderful storytelling, teaching me so much. There's so much I need to look up after this interview. I think you should consider it. I do want to talk to you now about your greatest accomplishment.
My greatest accomplishment is not one that I earned, but I was given. And that is my wife. My wife decided that she wanted to bet everything about herself on me, and that means the world to me because it gave me our beautiful daughter, my son, which looks more like me than I want to admit. All of those things only happened because someone loved and trusted me as the worst version of myself. And it is my job to make sure that her bet pays off.
Oh, I appreciate that. I've never had a guest say that, but I love that for you and for the audience. It makes me think of this, might be a Bible verse. He who finds a man finds a good thing. Is that a thing? He who finds a
He who
wife.
finds a
Oh
wife,
my
he
gosh.
finds a wife,
Well, let me run
he
that
finds a
back.
wife. But hey, no,
He
it
who
worked.
finds a
It's
wife finds a good thing.
yeah,
Is that it?
there we go. That's what I'm talking about. And it's a good line. You didn't have to say Bible, and you'd be like, all right, we could have went with the he who found good man. We could have ran with it and act like you remixed that yourself. That would have been okay too.
Nah, y'all know I work in diversity and inclusion, and I was clearly thinking about being inclusive because that was not the verse that I was thinking of. That was not the word I was thinking of. That is hilarious.
Oh, you're golden because the thought and the effort and the idea behind it is all that actually matters.
So,
But whoever that finds a partner, if we want to be D and I, like that finds a good thing. So there we go. There finds a partner.
nowhere in the Bible does it say that. That is hilarious. See, that's why I shouldn't be quoting any type of scripture. So, what's next for your business?
The next thing for my business is continue to grow. I mean, I love Simon Sinek. He's one of my favorite. His idea on finite games and infinite games. The what is forward is being the best version of myself and my business, and that version is consistently advancing and improving. That is the gift and the curse of it, of being that competitive. I like I said, I did play football prior to. That was a good finite game. There's rules, there's regulations, there's positions, there's things you can do, there's things you can't do. But when it comes to true competition, infinite games, the game of business, the game of life, knows no winners and losers. It just knows that you decided to keep pushing forward to be your version of better, or that you decided to stop playing. So my goal for the agency is to tirelessly chase after the best version of myself and who I should be for those that trust me.
So, our interview is coming to an end. I want to thank you for your time, your attention, your storytelling, your humor, and
Mhm.
everything else that you've contributed to this episode of the Currency Club. There are two things I would like you to do before we go. And the first thing is telling the viewers why they should subscribe to the Currency Club. Because I imagine there are some people here who are not subscribed yet. Maybe they're just visiting the channel because they support Charles. But we need y'all to tap in and go ahead and subscribe so that we can share this wonderful information with a greater audience around the world.
People should subscribe to the Currency Club because it's all about positivity and advancement and context on how others are doing a little bit of what you wish, right? Watching so many great people come on here, from firearm manufacturers to authors to speakers. Like there's such a deep depth of love, care, and commitment that you put in on finding and selecting the right people, that I tune in for the way Gordon Ramsay cooks because of his palate. I tune in to the Currency Club because of Whitney's palate and who she finds value in.
Thank you. So, the last favor that I need you to do is leave the viewers with an inspirational message.
Well, since we are on the Currency Club, my inspirational message would be currency and people have a lot more in common than you might think. Each holds value, but only with those that grasp its utility, that grasp each individual's value. Surround yourself with people that know and understand your worth, because then you're priceless.
All right. So, with that being said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the club, and we will see you next time.